Hey Buff Mamas, I wanted to talk today about how to say no to the mom butt. There's a lot of us that start to complain when we get older that our butt starts to get flat, and there's a lot of reasons. Um, what happens is we will end up sitting all day, whether we're working at the computer, at our desk, driving, uh, everywhere. A lot of times we just end up sitting, and when we're sitting, our hip flexors are these muscles right here, and they're flexed, and so basically they're tight, and all when these muscles are tight, you're not going to get proper glute activation. You can kind of see another example of this when you see the bodybuilders or the guys in the gym that always lift only chest. They start to develop really tight chest muscles, and they think it's because they've got such big lats, but it's really just their chest is so tight that they can't even put their arms down right. So their arms hang forward, and then when they go to do other exercises like maybe pull-ups, they end up using, it's all arms that they're using because their back muscles are deactivated due to their tight chest muscles. And it's the same way when they try to do something like a row, even, like you'll see them try to do a row and they'll end up with their shoulders all scrunched up because their back muscles just can't activate. It's the same thing that happens in our hip flexors to our glutes. If our hip flexors are always tight, we're not going to be able to get those glutes activated, and then these synergist muscles are the hamstrings. So a lot of us end up with tight hamstrings because the hamstrings are picking up the slack that the hip flexors are not, or that the glutes cannot do because our hip flexors are so tight. I keep talking about hip flexors. In simple terminology, they're the muscles that kind of attach our lower spine and pelvic bones to our femur and these small hip joints in this area, and they cause our hips to flex. And they're the rectus femoris, which is this top quad muscle here. The adductors, there's quite a few adductor muscles that are involved in that, as well as the iliopsoas. There's two muscles, and then a little bit with the TFL as well that attaches down to our iliotibial band. So a lot of times when those are tight, we're not going to get proper activation in the glutes. So what I want to do is that was a little bit of an explanation of the why. The next step is going to be how do we reverse that. Okay, here's the warm-up portion. Really, in order to avoid that mom butt, what we have to do is to loosen up our calves and our hip flexors, and we have to activate the glutes, and then get the muscles of the body working together properly again, so that the stress is not being put on the hamstrings. We're going to deactivate and lengthen our tight muscles, which are, in most of us, are our calves. When I work with my clients, I like to take a look at them better in person to see which specific muscles are tight. But for most people, the calves end up being some of the tight muscles. So I'm going to show a little bit of how to foam roll calves. And what we're going to do first is foam roll each muscle group and then statically stretch it. But the calves are going to be first. And if putting one foot or one leg on top of the other puts more pressure on the area, and you just raise yourself up and go from your Achilles tendon all the way down to just below your knee, and you stop on any tight spot, kind of just let it knead into that tight spot and get it to loosen up. So you're going to do that for about 30 seconds. Switch sides. Again, foam roll the other calf. Ideally, you would use the one leg on top of the other, but if that's causing too much pressure, it's too painful. You can do both at the same time. If you have some really tight muscles, that might be a better thing to do to get them to slowly loosen up until you can withstand the pressure that putting one leg on top of the other will give you. Okay, so we foam rolled both of our calves. Now we're gonna static stretch them. So this is a stationary static stretch for the calves. Again, you want to lean forward so that you just feel the really good stretch down your calf. Hold that for at least 30 seconds and then switch sides. Again, so and you may be tighter in one side. I'm feeling this one just doesn't want to stretch right now. So you really just have to kind of go at your own. You don't want to strain anything, but just kind of just get it to stretch as much as you can. It's finally working. All right, so we got our calves foam rolled and static stretched. Now the hip flexor is a little bit more awkward because they're right here to static or to foam roll. But what you do is you kind of lean and you lay on the foam roller and you roll up and down, and you feel any tight spot again on that rectus femoris, and a little bit on the kind of maybe roll at a 45-degree angle, and you'll hit that TFL. Don't go any more past like a 90-degree, because then you start getting into your glutes. But if you feel anything tight, whether you're flat or at a 45-degree angle, you're really hitting those hip flexors, and then you switch sides. Again, all the way down to the top of your quad, up to your the top of your hip bone, or the ilium, basically. And then again on the side to get the TFL. And again, 30 seconds each. And then the good static stretch for that is very similar to the calf stretch, except for instead of leaning forward, you're going to roll your pelvis under so that you feel the stretch on the side here. And then you can kind of, if you can do this, it'll be better. You get an even deeper stretch in your side here. You'll feel the hip flexor and the TFL. You'll feel all that stretch. Just kind of let your weight sink into that so that you feel it. And just hold that for 30 seconds. And then switch sides. One foot in front. Tilt the pelvis under, hand up, lean over as best you can till you feel that good stretch there. And 30 seconds. Okay, the last muscles that I don't do these with all of my clients, but sometimes the adductors are also tight. So I'll demonstrate those real quick. This one's even more awkward than the hip flexor because you have to foam roll the inside of your thigh. So it can be a little bit weird, but you hold your weight on your elbows and get the foam roller kind of at your knee, and then roll yourself in. If you feel any tight spots, again, just let the foam roller knead those tight spots out. Switch sides. Start at your knee. Roll out, or roll in, I'm sorry, and then back out. And just let it knead into any tight spots that you feel along the way. And there's lots of different ways you can static stretch your adductors. This is just my favorite because you don't have to worry about balance here. You just lean into your leg put your weight on the balls of this foot, and then really just lean. If you don't want to feel it too much in this leg, you will feel a little bit, but you really want to put the focus. If you're leaning like this, you're going to feel it more in this leg, but if you lean over a little bit, you'll feel it more in your adductors, right here. And then switch sides. "30 seconds each stretch." All right, so we've stretched, we've deactivated and lengthened some of the tight muscle groups, and then what you have to do is really focus on getting the glutes active again. So this one's really good for activating the glutes. Just a basic leg extension or glute extension. You slowly kick up and really squeeze at the top. And sometimes if you were to have done these before you had done some of your deactivating and stretching of your tight muscles, you might actually feel this more in your hamstrings. But now that you've already deactivated your tight muscles, you should feel this more in your glutes, and you're really able to finally get a good squeeze. So then you switch to the other side. You do at least 15 reps on each side, and you can even go 2 or 3 sets depending on how much time you have. All right, so we've done each side, 2 to 3 sets of 15 reps each side. The next thing that we want to do is the activation exercise. And for that, I'm just going to use some dumbbells and do a squat to press. So you want to get into feet about hip width apart. Hold the dumbbells at your shoulders. Some people I forget the other name for these. That was another name for these I was going to use, but I always forget it, so I just call it the squat to press. So anyway, squat down, get as low as you can so you really activate those glutes. Squeeze as you stand up and press. Squat down, stand up and press. And this way you should feel your glutes firing when they're supposed to and not your hamstrings, and you're getting your body to activate all the right muscle groups. So that was, and again, you can do 15 reps of that, 2 or 3 sets, and this can actually count as your warm-up, the foam rolling, stretching, activation, and integration exercises. And that covers the warm-up. The exercise portion will be next.